Welcome to another episode of Triumph Against Odds. My name still remains Obidike Okafor, and on this episode we have a very exciting person to speak with, and she's someone that you will really need to listen to everything he has to say because he has great things to say. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us. We'll be right back right now. It's nice to have you today on Triumph Against Odds. Thank you for honoring our invite. Thank you for being here. And with us today on Triumph Against Odds, we have Kudzayi Hove. I don't know if I got your name right.
Yes, you did.
Okay, and he's the CEO of Amayi Foods. Yes, I think I got that right too.
Yes, you did.
Because I don't like spoiling names. I always like getting them right. So I think let's just jump straight into it. So my first question is, you said your umbilical cord is tied to the Pan-African struggle. How did your upbringing and personal journey shape the way you lead Amayi Foods today?
That is a very deep question. Thank you. Possibly too deep to start with, but no problem. Thank you for having me and inviting me on the show. I think, look, I'm a child of the 70s. I'm a child of the 70s in Zimbabwe, which is when the liberation struggle was at its height in the country. If you recall, we only got independence in the 1980s. My memories, my earliest memories were of the village, of the war, and subsequently, when I was about 4 years old, we moved to the UK to be with my parents who were studying. So, and then at independence back to Zimbabwe. So we basically, I think my childhood was characterized by a lot of movement, a lot of new environments, being outside of my comfort zone, not quite fitting in. And I think it's informed my life in general, in that, I'm not scared to take risks that need to be taken. I'm not scared to be outside of my comfort zone, which if you're an entrepreneur in Nigeria, you're always outside of your comfort zone. Making decisions without having the full information, because that's what life is, and having to deal with the results. I think that's really what's kind of shaped me, and in the way that I run Amayi Foods, it's also kind of accepting people are different, people don't conform, and it's okay if you don't conform. In fact, some of the best ideas are from people who don't conform. So really to try and groom that characteristic of creativity, etc., in my staff, in my team. So to answer your question.
Okay. So my second question is, Amayi started in a borrowed kitchen in Lagos with 3 women from 3 different countries. What small but defining detail from those early days still shapes how you think about business now?
I think what hasn't changed for us is our commitment to the type of products that we bring out. We've always maintained that we would never sell a product that we wouldn't use in our own kitchen, that we wouldn't feed our own children, and we've maintained that throughout. Yes. I think that's something that's at the core of who we are.
Yes. See, from Ghana to Nigeria to Zimbabwe, you've lived Pan-Africanism in practice. At this stage in your life and business, do you feel you're at a crossroad or just getting started?
Can I say I feel both?
No, of course.
I feel I'm at a crossroads and getting started.
Okay.
I mean, look, I've been around. Amayi has been around for 10 years now.
10 years?
10 years,
To be honest, I just heard about it not too long ago.
Yeah. So it's been 10 years.
Wow.
Which seems like a long time. I met a friend who said, look, a lot of businesses that started 10 years ago in Nigeria are not in existence anymore. So it's it is a while, and we've been through a lot. But at the same time, there are businesses that have been around for 100 years or 50 years. And so, for us, that's what we're trying to build. We're trying to build businesses that outlive us, outlive our children, can attract the brilliant Africans, brilliant young Africans to come and work with us, to build an African brand, world-class African brand, and to know that hopefully 100 years from now it will still be around. So I think, look, it is both. It feels like we're at a crossroads in many ways in our journey, because lots of things are being put into motion as we speak today, but at the same time, it's always fresh.
Okay, take us back to a moment when it felt like Amayi might not survive. What nearly broke the company, and what pulled you through?
So there have been many moments like that, which is where, we are stuck. We don't have the money to pay suppliers, or we need, we're struggling to pay our staff, etc. There have been many moments like that. And I think if most founders in Nigeria told the truth, they would also agree that there are many moments like that, and there'll be many moments in the future. But I think really the moment that I felt personally that I didn't know if the company would make it was when I didn't think I would make it. I think, I have... I come from a long line of strong women, and so I had this view in my mind that I must be strong, and whatever comes at me, I will be able to manage it. And I think while that's been useful to some extent, I think that it has also it neglects things like mental health, right, and your need for self-care. And the fact that, you can't carry a whole load by yourself. And I think that was the moment when I just kind of realized, if this thing is going to continue, first of all, I need to take care of myself. And then I need, to spread the burden, not just amongst the co-founders, but amongst my team. It needs to be a shared burden, right? Because no company can survive on just one person. And so I think, that's what really kind of made the difference, and at least just allowed us to pull through. And I think now that's continuing, that sort of ethos of everybody shares the burden is what's enabling us to continue.
Okay. So when you look at Amayi Food, can you just explain to us what Amayi Food is about? What do you people produce?
Yeah. So we're a food systems platform company, right? Our mission is to build out the infrastructure for nutrition equity and food sovereignty. Okay. So for us, what that means, I'll tell you what that means, and then I'll tell you what we do now and how we're going to, get to where we want to get to. For us, it's important that Africans can feed themselves, right? From birth, actually from before birth, right? From the time a woman gets pregnant to the time a child is 3 years old, or the first 1,000 days, let's say 2 years old, basically informs the rest of that child's life. Right, so early nutrition is super important, right? And it's an area that we are falling behind in as Africa. Nigeria, 40% of the children are stunted, right? And stunting doesn't mean just a small person. It actually means that person during that first 1,000 days probably didn't get the required nutrition, which now can affect their mental health, their intellectual development, many things. So out of the gates, we're starting several steps back. And we need, as a country, to be able to address that, because no manner of tech investing or investing in oil and gas or whatever is going to solve for that, right? We need to feed our population properly so that our children develop and are able to take the mantle. So nutrition equity, that is what I'm referring to, is super important. And being able to feed ourselves, food sovereignty, is super important too. So Amayi, as I said, we're a food systems platform company. We're currently active in fast-moving consumer goods. So we produced our flagship products are tomato paste called Tomato Mix, and then Tomapep, which are the main products that we sell. We use local tomatoes, local onion, ginger, garlic, peppers in our products. This is kind of the first step. We are now doing a lot of work in our value chain to actually start processing, using renewable energy to start processing some of our inputs, but at the same time being able to process those commodities for export. We're very much of the belief that Africa, Nigeria, we're leaving too much value on the table by exporting raw commodities. There is a lot of value to capture, which can be shared with small-scale farmers and other people that are along the value chain, which to us is what creates real prosperity, which changes the dynamic when it comes to things like nutrition. So it's a very kind of circular way that we're thinking about it. We call it a systems thinking approach to the value chain, where we're very, very particular about embedding smallholder farmers, women, youth, etc., into as many parts of the value chain as possible. So just beyond buying their product from them, we want them to be part of the processing, the value addition. We want them to be co-owners with us in the processing. So that's what we are looking at.
I think I like the holistic approach, as in looking at it from full circle.
Yeah.
So so many African businesses face the same dilemma Nkrumah spoke of, exporting raw materials instead of finished goods.
Yeah.
Was there a belief you once held about food systems or markets that you had to let go in order to grow, Amayi?
That is a tough question. I think it might be what I kind of refer to as the inferiority complex that we as Africans have, that our products can't meet the standards of what is required in export markets, that we can't create the quality that is required. I think letting go of that belief, which many people believe, when you ask them, why aren't you processing? They'll be like, we can't meet up. We can't. So it's really, look, it's work, but it has to be done. And so I think it's really that,
Somebody has to do it.
Somebody has to do it, right?
So growing a food company in Nigeria means battling currency swings, inflation, and tough supply chains. How did you adapt Amayi Foods to survive and thrive through those economic challenges?
So let's be clear, the economic challenges still exist.
Yes.
And we're still adapting.
Of course.
Right?
So
yeah, I mean, I think the most relevant one was our move to use local tomatoes versus trying to source tomato concentrate from different sources. Now, we were, to be honest, we were kind of forced in that move, but it's helped us a lot in terms of controlling our costs, etc. So I think that really was what kind of helped us in terms of being a game changer. Helped us in terms of our margins, being able to source more cheaply, and enable us to actually be able to compete. Yeah.
As a founder, there are always ideas and opportunities that look good but aren't right for the moment. What's one big no you have had to make, even though it was hard?
So, oh my gosh, that's difficult to think about. I can tell you kind of in principles, in general, the big no for us right now is any product where we can't source locally. Where we can't build out a local supply chain that is resilient and sustainable. So as attractive as a business may look, we won't enter into it if we can't see how we can localize. In the short term, it's more difficult because it's always been a country where it was easier to import.
Yes.
Because of oil, dollars were always available, so it was, it was easier. If you go to other economies, Zimbabwe, where I'm from originally, just getting dollars out of the bank is next to impossible. So that's forced economies like that to look inwards versus importing, because it's very difficult to import. But for us here, we've been a bit spoiled. I think the last few years, though, have taught us that we need to look inward. And in the longer term, it will be more beneficial for us.
When costs rise or market slows down, how do you balance the optimism needed to inspire your team with the realism required to keep the business afloat?
Yeah. Again, difficult, but I have a very young team. They're very passionate, very creative, and I think what's kept us going is the ability to adapt. They're excited about developing new products. And so for us, a lot of it is about, this is a current situation. How do we adapt? And again, it's sharing the burden. No? The decisions are made jointly. We discuss possible solutions jointly. The budget is a team. How we spend money now is a team decision. And it's the best decision I've ever made, because, you now have members of staff who are saying, do you know what? You can delay the salary for a couple of days and make sure that production continues. So that kind of thing is a huge deal, right? Because it's ownership of the business. Yeah.
I really like that, because everybody feels like they're part of it.
Yes, exactly.
They're part of something.
Yeah.
Something bigger than themselves.
Yes. Yeah.
So if fear wasn't a factor of fear or limitations, if there are no limitations, no fear, what bold step would you take next to transform Africa's food system?
Well, we're already taking the bold step in the value chain work that we're doing, which we believe is truly innovative, which I referred to earlier, which is setting up renewable-powered processing closer to farm gate, and building out a model where the smallholder farmers and their communities are part of this process, from nursery of the plants to sale of the, to table, basically. So for us, that's what we're doing. If I had no limitations, etc., I would double down on that as much as possible. Yeah.
So if the next 5 years of your journey were a book chapter, what would its title be, and what story would it tell?
I think the title would be Transformation. And the story it would tell would be about Amayi transforming from basically an FMCG company into a truly food systems platform company. So, the story would be about that process.
What would the title of the book be?
Did I not say the title?
No, let's talk about what you want. What would the title
Metamorphosis.
be? Metamorphosis.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are wrapping up. So I just want to ask, a very important question. We've been so serious, and I know you're somebody whose heart is big and everything. So I wanted to ask, when you're not running Amayi, when you're not being a boss, when you're not leading people, what do you do what hidden talent do you have, and what do you do to relax or have fun or that kind of thing?
Yeah, hidden talent, not so sure about that. But What do I do to relax? Well, I'm a mother, which is not necessarily relaxing. I'm a wife, right? So I do spend time with my family, obviously. I go to the gym. I do strength training. I do yoga. I swim to relax. Also, although I've not done this for a while, and my colleagues will not be happy, I'm a bird watcher. I'm a member of the Lekki Bird Club, which is very active, and has an outing every month. Although the places in Lagos are few and far between, are getting fewer and further between to be able to actually be able to bird watch. But they are places like the National Theatre.
Yes.
There's Lufasi, there's the Lekki Conservation Centre, etc. So bird watching is another thing, and then I have some involvement in some environmental activities. There's a competition that I'm working with the Lagos Urban Development Initiative called Greening Lagos, to encourage youth to find ways to green their local environment, but they have to use existing infrastructure. And existing resources.
Funny enough, I didn't know birdwatching was a thing in Nigeria until my elder sister did a master's in ornithology.
Did she really?
Yes, in Nigeria. In
Fantastic.
In Jos.
Yeah, Jos is amazing, apparently.
So when I heard you say, I was like, oh wow, that's so nice.
No, Lekki Bird Club, I think it's over 100 members.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's mostly Nigerians, because people were accusing me of bringing foreignness, but it's actually mostly Nigerians. And the nice thing about it is it's an accessible hobby, so it's not too expensive to get into, You can bird watch if you're lucky in your own backyard.
You can see, because I remember then my sister, when she comes home from Jos, and then she's like, that is a one thing. And I was like, okay.
And there's some people, I'm sure she can do it from the call. She can hear the bird, and then she'll be like, oh, that's
it. Yeah, that's that, and it's cool. It's very cool. So, looking back at 2015 in that tiny kitchen, what's the one piece of advice you wish someone had whispered in your ear before you started Amayi?
I think you get this myth, right, that founders have this clear vision from day one and they execute on it. And I think, you realize that vision changes, and it must change because the times changed, right? And I think I would have liked for someone to say, do you know what, it's okay. You don't have to have this, this is my vision and I'm building out. But there's this myth, Jeff Bezos had this thing and this. But if you look at his story or anybody's story, you can see Amazon adapted, right? It was books initially, and then it was this, and then it was,
just keep adapting
and you keep adapting, and that's how you grow. So I think that probably would have been the one thing that would have been useful. Yeah.
At this point, I think we've come to the end of the podcast, but there's something I wanted to ask you, and I said I'm not going to let it go, but let me just go ask the questions that I need to ask. And that's, I read somewhere in BusinessDay about Kwame Nkrumah's wife,
his daughter-in-law,
teaching you.
Yes.
So the question I wanted to ask, and this is just out of the blues and all of that, if Kwame Nkrumah, who I know he's someone that you listen to and have a good listen. If Kwame Nkrumah was here, seeing what you're doing, and he looked at what you're doing and maybe used one of the spices and all of that you make and all of that, what do you think he will say? What else in your head can you imagine? What do you think he will say? Like, oh wow, that kind of thing. Because I know he's almost like an inspiration and all of that.
Yes, he's an inspiration, but so was Margaret Nkrumah. Is Margaret Nkrumah, his daughter-in-law. Okay. I think she was possibly one of the strongest influences, in my early adolescence, in my teenage life, But I think that he would take the shito that we make,
Okay.
because we do make shito sauce, you know,
Okay.
which is the black
Yes,
pepper
yes,
from
yes.
Ghana, and he would taste it. And you know what? All Ghanaians all have the shito that they like.
Yes.
So he'd probably be like, too much onion or something. But I don't know. I mean, I think, you know, at the end of the day, I think it's moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
And, you know, looking at people like an Nkrumah or Margaret Nkrumah herself, who's phenomenal. You know, you want to always honor that legacy, you know, what she taught you. You know, there's this, you know, right to self-determination. She was very unapologetic about that in early independent Zimbabwe. Very unapologetic that, you know, it should be, the country is ours and ours. Even if we mess up, it's ours. That's the point.
It's our mess.
You know. You know, I think, you know, part of, you know, building a business is something, it's not political, right?
No,
You're not. But it is, for me, work that you're doing in improving people's lives. And changing the narrative for them and for their children and for their grandchildren and great-grandchildren. I mean, that's the hope, right? Is that you're not just a fleeting company, but you're actually a company that, at the end of the day, makes this deep impact, positive impact in people's lives.
Thank you so much, Kudzayi. So honestly, I wish we could go on and on and on, but sorry that can't happen.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
So at this point, we've come to the end of the podcast, and I really want to say thank you for having us. I've learned so much from just listening to you talk, and I'm really hoping that everyone who is watching and who is listening is learning, and I'm hoping they're taking notes too, because this is like a note-taking, you know, experience, even for me. Even though I'm not writing, I'm storing it in my head somewhere. So at this point, I'd like to say thank you once again. So thank you for watching us today. Thank you for listening to us today. At this point, we've come to the end of Triumph Against Odds, but please, we still have a long line of interesting people for you to listen and learn. And as we always say at Triumph Against Odds, always be resilient. Thank you.